I feel like we've been talking about it for so long, and it is finally here. World Fitness Project Tour 1 is this weekend.
Yeah.
And I did a whole video sort of talking about my concerns about the World Fitness Project, and I'll briefly explain those to you right now. Mostly, I just worry that there isn't enough interest for something like this to exist outside of CrossFit as a separate thing. I go back to when Grid League first originated, not the Grid League that's in Florida, not the smaller one, but Grid was supposed to be a big, like, nationwide, nation being the United States, thing, and ultimately it just wasn't profitable. They couldn't fill the arenas. They couldn't have the events and bring the people in to watch them. And if you can't turn a profit, things die. So I do worry about that with the World Fitness Project. I worry about either trying to split the viewership that CrossFit already gets, like trying to pull the people away who maybe have left CrossFit for one reason or another, or trying to get the CrossFitters to watch both of these things, which I just don't know if there's enough interest in a second thing like the CrossFit Games. I'm interested in it though. I do want to see it succeed. I like the idea of it. The more I hear about it and the more I understand it, I do think it sounds like a fun concept. But also another concern can be that you have to understand a lot of things and it's brand new right now, and you just have to hope that catches on quickly enough that people jump on board before it hurts their bottom line too much and they just can't keep going, right? Like, you need people to jump on near the beginning so that you can keep the ball rolling. It seems like they have some good investors that are going to help keep it going as it gets off the ground. Like this year, I can't imagine them expecting to turn a profit, but I'm hoping that it ends up growing into something good. But I am still concerned. But let's talk about what they've done so far. It seems like they're treating the athletes really well. They had a behind the scenes where they showed off some of like the lockers that they have and all of these things that they're giving the athletes. They have these cool like Letterman jackets. They even gave some to the media. I wish I was going to this event. I could not get off from work because no one wants to work the weekends on Mother's Day weekend. So I'm a little jealous that like Dense Updates, Jenny got this Letterman jacket. That's so cool. But all the athletes got one too. They had a cool media day where they took photos and things, kind of Rogue-esque, and athletes love Rogue. And I think that the audience, that fans have learned to love Rogue too. So maybe things are leaning in a positive direction, but it is way too soon to say that. Will Morad and Saxon Panchak were on Coffee, Pods, and Wads, and I would recommend that you go over there and watch that whole video after this. But he said something about waiting before we form our opinions, and I really appreciated that.
Here's the reality is, judge us at the end of the year. Let it play out. Like, judge us at the end of the year.
Because that's really how I've felt about this the whole time, that we need to see this year play out before we can make any sort of grand statement about what World Fitness Project is or what World Fitness Project isn't. I just don't think we know enough yet. And I'm hoping it's something good. I like having more content. I like having more events. I believe they want to do this quarterly next year. So having events all year basically. And we have some time in the CrossFit season that's just dead. There's nothing to watch. There's nothing to look forward to. Everything's really far out. And this could give us things all year round to look forward to. One event every quarter, and then we still have the CrossFit Games season. It just gives us a lot more to talk about. It gives the athletes more opportunity to make money, to gain sponsors. So I think it could be a really good thing if they can keep people interested, make it easily accessible, which is something I'm concerned about, and to some degree work within the CrossFit season, because I think if push comes to shove, athletes may go towards CrossFit over World Fitness Project, because CrossFit Games, the CrossFit Games season, is more tried and true. It's been around for nearly 2 decades, and World Fitness Project hasn't even been around for a year. If you're going to invest time only into one, I think some people may end up still choosing the Games over WFP because it has the history and it has more longevity when we just don't know what WFP's longevity is going to look like. Accessibility. I said that was one of my concerns. And I feel like WFP is trying to be very accessible in the sense that they're trying to appeal to different demographics and they're trying to do things in Europe, like having the finals in Copenhagen. I think that's all great. But YouTube is, I believe, the second largest search engine on the internet. And they're not going to initially be broadcasting on YouTube. It will be on YouTube later, but the initial broadcast is going to be on their website, which is worldfitnessproject.com. I'm concerned because I feel like a lot of people just go to YouTube, they type in the event, whatever that may be, TFX, Syndicate Crown, Wadland, and they try to find the stream. And you're not going to find it there. And I don't know when they say after the fact if they mean like immediately after the fact, like right after they finish broadcasting, it'll be on YouTube, or if they mean next week. And either of those isn't really the best option. The best option would be to broadcast live, I believe, on YouTube. But they are trying something different, and we will have to see how that goes. But it is a big concern of mine. But I'll be watching it on that website, and I will link that website below in case you want to go check it out. Also, I plan to watch all of it and I'll have a wrap up of it. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that, if you can't watch all of it yourself, make sure you subscribe right now because I'll have that video out on Monday. So something to look forward to and maybe save you some time if you can't watch it all. So before we get into our rankings of the athletes and who I think could do well here in a very stacked field that I think it's a little bit difficult to predict because we just don't know where people are coming off of other competitions and some of them we just haven't seen in a while. But before that, there's a couple of things I want to mention about this. So there is a pro division and a challenger division. 20 athletes, 20 men and 20 women got their pro card based off of other things this year. Ranking systems, who they thought would do well. 20 athletes received theirs from that. Next year, the athletes will be awarded those pro cards based on a point system. Now, there was a challengers competition that happened online a few weeks ago. The top 10 athletes who finished in that challengers division are going to compete against the pros in the pro division for a field of 30 at the Indianapolis Tour 1 event this weekend. The 20 below those in that online qualifier will be in something called the challengers division. The weights are a little bit lighter. It's not the same. None of those athletes at the end of this weekend will have more points than anyone who competed in the pro division this weekend. And that was also explained on Coffee Pods and Wads.
A challenger does is number one in challengers. And then that's completely separate from...
Two separate competitions,
Yeah,
really,
okay.
just under the same roof.
That's interesting. And also athletes that pulled out, like Emma McQuaid is injured. I believe Haley Adams is sick. So those athletes had pro cards are not competing. That will make them more vulnerable to possibly lose their pro card for next season. They have 2 more events to earn points with. Say an athlete does the challengers division, this competition, and gets into the pros for Tour Stop 2, that athlete would have a real opportunity to get more points than someone like Emma McQuaid and Haley Adams who are getting 0 at this event. And that's sort of how athletes will have the opportunity to overtake pro cards. And there's 20 athletes who have pro cards right now and 30 are in the pro division. So 10 of those challengers have already made it into that division and have the opportunity to earn those points and take those pro cards from the athletes that are just given those right now. That's a little confusing. I'm not sure if that explanation was the simplest, but I think as we talk about it more, all of us on these types of shows, as well as if you watch the broadcast this weekend, it should start to become more clear as you sort of hear it reiterated again and in different ways. So basically challengers that are, especially the challengers that made the pros this tour event, have a real shot of possibly taking some pro cards from some people who were just given them for this first year. But essentially the challengers at the event and the pros at the event are 2 separate competitions. Their scores won't impact each other. They're essentially different for this weekend, but they both earn points within the system. The pros being more automatically, even if you finish 30th, and the challengers being less, but still gaining points. Another thing that was talked about on Coffee Pods and Wads was they didn't have any women test the workouts.
Yeah, no, we tested them. We didn't have a female test them. I actually talked to a few girls, but I think for the first one, until we add to the sport team maybe next year and have some females involved, I was just a little bit afraid of like giving out the workouts.
For me, that becomes a concern. And I have, a vested interest in women, being one. I think it's important to realize that women aren't just small men. Our bodies operate differently. Our hormone levels are different. That impacts things when it comes to fitness and when it comes to health in general, especially when it comes to medical care. I mean, there's been a bunch of things with women where they've been misdiagnosed or it's been slower to come up with treatment plans because for a long time, we just looked at women as small men and we're not. So I think it would be valuable for World Fitness Project that is trying to be more inclusive and diverse to get a woman on their testing team because, they have some women in their competition, like half of the athletes. So it could be beneficial to have that representation on the team. Just my opinion. Anyway, let's get into the rankings. And this time we will start with the women's side of things because I think there is a pretty clear-cut women's favorite, and that is Laura Horvath. We have not seen a lot of Laura because she did not compete in the CrossFit Games season this year, but she did compete at Wodapalooza and surprisingly did not win. Heavily favorited there and didn't win, but she still has to be the favorite here. She is just one of the best athletes. She's a CrossFit Games winner and she's fresh. Like a lot of the athletes I'm about to talk about have competed as recently as this weekend, as recently as this past weekend, like just a few days ago. They won't even have a week to recover. And Laura has been focused on this, training for this. I think it would be unwise to expect anyone to win other than Laura. Do I think there's a possibility? There always is. But it's highly unlikely. I think Laura is the heavy favorite to win Tour 1 of World Fitness Project and potentially the whole year. Now here's where things get different because a lot of these athletes have competed in the last week, in the last 2 weeks, in the last 3 weeks, maybe all of those weeks. So it got more difficult to choose. We just don't know what they're showing up like. And I did put value on being fresh when looking at the workouts, 6 workouts in 3 days. I think being fresh and having possibly prioritized this competition may make a big difference on the leaderboard. So in second, I have Emma Tall, another athlete that's not competing in the CrossFit Games season, also competed in Wodapalooza. She was in first place at Wodapalooza going into the final event. Lucy Campbell overtook her, and Lucy Campbell also overtook Laura Horvath, but Emma Tall is fresh. She's been getting ready for this. She spent the last 2 weeks, I believe, at Proven. She's a Proven athlete. The Proven athletes did very well in the online semifinals this past weekend. I think that says a lot about the programming, also about the people that she's been around recently, and the fact that this event has been a priority of hers. Not saying other people don't look at this as a priority, but if you're doing CrossFit Games and you're doing this, things have to give. And Emma Tall is not doing all those things. So I think she's a real chance of the podium and possibly being the second place athlete. In third, another athlete who did not do in affiliate semifinals, and that is Alex Kazan. I think Alex Kazan is still just getting better. We have not seen the best version of Alex Kazan. And I believe there's a chance she might have been dealing with a little bit of an injury, possibly part of the reason that she pulled out of the in-affiliate semifinals. Pulled out is probably the wrong word. You had to sign up like that week, essentially. You could sign up while doing it. So she just never signed up. She chose not to do it. Her coach, Justin Kotler, announced that she would not be doing it. So with that, Alex is fresh. And Alex is not planning on doing a semifinal until NorCal Classic, which isn't until the beginning of June, a month from now. So right now, all she's had to focus for and prepare for is this. And I think that could mean that she's in a good place to do well. And again, she's fresh. She's not coming off of a big competition that would have been very taxing on her CNS just a couple days ago. So I have Alex Zan in third place. In fourth, I have Lucy Campbell. It might be unwise not to put her on the podium because all she's done in 2025 is podiumed. Actually, won. She's not just podium, she's won the whole things. Wadapalooza and Wadland. But this is a much tougher field than both of those. And she competed less than 2 weeks ago. And she said in a behind the scenes with WFP that she was feeling it a little bit.
Took a while. Like, I was more battered than I thought I would be after Wadland Fest. I'll be honest, my calves were not having a good time, and it was quite heavy. Like finishing with heavy Isabel on my wrist, so it's taken that a little bit of time to sort of feel okay again.
So I think there's a chance she might not be fully recovered. Her wrist may be feeling it more than some other athletes that competed recently because she's overcoming that wrist injury. I just don't know if she'll have enough to get on the podium. Definitely could. I wouldn't be surprised if she proved me wrong, but I felt the other three women are coming in here a little bit fresher and a little bit more focused on this competition. So I put her in my fourth place position, just right outside the podium. In fifth, I have Ariel Lowen. Ariel Lowen is someone we could always talk about to podium. She tends to surprise people all the time. She finished third place at the games, kind of felt like a surprise, even though she's very good. She's just not flashy about it. So you know she's good, you know she's gonna be in the top 10, but sometimes you just look over and you're like, wait, she's third. Or wait, she just won in affiliate semifinals, which is what happened. She won the in affiliate semifinals. So I think that she could still be recovering too. And she had a bit of a lackluster performance at Wadapalooza this year. So I'm just gonna put her in a fifth place position, middle of the pack of the top 10. In fourth, I have Emily Rolfe. I debated putting her a little bit higher because she didn't do in affiliate semifinals. But I don't feel that these events are ideal for her, not awful, but just not as good as they are for some of the other athletes. And I think she does better the more events there are, usually, although she did very well at Mayhem. And there's only 6 events here. It's not like a games level of events. So I like her at that 6th place position, but I do think she'll be top 10. I have Alexis Raptis next. Alexis Raptis just did in affiliate semifinals. She's gotten her colitis under control, but sometimes it flares up when she travels or is traveling for this. So I just felt it was a safer bet to put her in like a 7th place position. But if she finished closer to that top 3, would not be surprised. In 8th, I have Emma Lawson. And I kind of feel like this is a wild card. And she could finish lower than this. I don't know if she'll finish much higher than this. I don't really feel great about that, but could finish lower than this. She's overcoming a back injury, took off the CrossFit Games season because of that. She has a new coach. She's over at Brute. There's a lot of new things going on. She's just getting back into training. I'm not sure if she's going to be the Emma Lawson that I think at a time could potentially win the CrossFit Games, that she has that potential in her. I don't think she's there right now. So I think bottom half of this top 10 is where we're likely to see her. In 9th, Danielle Brandon. Again, a big part of this just comes down to she just competed last weekend. She's one of the fittest in the world, but there's only so much you can do to recover that quickly. So I'm going to put her in that 9th place position. Maddie Sturt, very similar to that, although I think Maddie Sturt recovers pretty well. We've seen her recover well, and she can turn around and do things pretty quickly. So I think she is a top 10 athlete, and she was top 10 at the games this past year. And this is a very strong games caliber field. So I think it'll be hard to be in the top 10, but I like these women. Although, like I said, hard to be in the top 10. I think lots of people could surprise us here because the caliber is just so high. This is a competition that's the caliber of the games, of the caliber of Rogue. So it's not as clear cut as some other competitions where you're like, duh, these people will be near the top. There's no duh here. It's all surprises. There could be lots of surprises. Other athletes I have to keep an eye on who I think could be in the top 10, that is Amy Kringle. She is right on the cusp of qualifying for affiliate semifinals. So one of the fittest, but also did just compete last weekend. Brooke Wells also competed last weekend. Fee Sagafi, she did fantastic at Mayhem. I want to see if she can repeat, if she can have another really great performance. We've seen her have lots of ups and downs in her career. It'd be nice to see her put it together for multiple weekends, and we'll see. And Paige Semenza, she's just very consistent all around. She's an athlete that you don't really have any things that you're like, that's great for Paige Semenza, but she's always consistently good. So I'd like to see where she ends up. I don't think she'll be top 10, but close to it. Let's move over to the men's side, and this top man is a little bit different than a lot of what I talked about with the women. Because with a lot of the women, I said, hey, they competed this past weekend. I don't think I can put them in the top 3. And then I'm going to come over here to the men's side and put a man who competed last weekend in first. But listen, you can't put anyone else. I don't think you can. I have Jeff Adler winning this. Jeff is just so dialed in to everything he does. The in-affiliate semifinals leaderboard is still under review, but it looks like he won it. Handedly. Like the second place person had more than double points that he had. He won it with 12 points in a competition with hundreds of athletes, and you get a point for each place. So he had like 3 first place finishes over 5 events. He's just better. He's just fitter. Arguably still the fittest man on earth, even though that's not technically his title right now. He won in 2023 and James Sprague won in 2024, but Jeff didn't compete. So I don't know. I think Jeff is still the man to beat. That's my opinion. And I could not put anyone ahead of him in this ranking. Jeff Adler. Congratulations on winning the WFP. No, I don't know, but it feels like it could be. In second, I have Roman Krenikov. Just a really great overall athlete. I think he can do pretty well in some of these workouts. And he didn't compete this past weekend. He got his ticket to the games at Wadland. He had some time to recover. Not a ton of time, but some time to back off a little bit, let his body feel a little bit better after Wadland. And when we saw him at Wadland, he seemed really happy and really excited and glad that he's getting to compete because he had an injury that he thought was going to take him out forever.
I'm just happy when I'm competing.
Yeah.
Because I was injured like 8 months ago. Yeah. And I think, I'm not competing anymore.
Right.
Maybe in life, But now,
because that's what you love, is to be on the competition floor.
So I think he's competing happy and healthy and had more time to rest than a lot of people. And I think that's something that's dangerous. We thought Roman could win the games for a while there, and maybe he still can. So I'm going to put him in that second place position. In third, I had to go with Austin Hatfield. Austin has looked so good this season. He came in as a rookie last year and ended up finishing top 10 at the CrossFit Games, and it feels like he's just getting better. We have not seen the best Austin Hatfield yet, and he's just increasing every single time we see him. He competed at Mayhem to get his ticket to the CrossFit Games, and that was about a month ago. So he's had plenty of time to taper and plenty of time to get focused in on the World Fitness Project, putting him in third. In fourth, I'm putting Dallin Pepper. I like Dallin Pepper. I think he has the potential to win the CrossFit Games, and I've said that many times. But he didn't do fantastic in the in-affiliate semifinals. He's in a qualifying position right now. He did well, but he didn't blow us out of the water, not the way that Jeff Adler did. And he just competed last weekend. So I think between those two things, him just not being like a crazy outlier like Jeff, and the fact that he competed last weekend, I had to put him just shy of the podium. But similarly to Lucy Campbell, where I said I think she could possibly end up on the podium, feel that way about Dallin too. In fifth, I have Jay Crouch. I think everyone sleeps on Jay Crouch. I had him in my qualifying through the in-affiliate semifinals, and then he did it, and it looks like he's going to do it, and in second place, behind who we just talked about, Jeff Adler, who has been like, is freaky fit. So we gotta watch Jay Crouch. I don't think he's quite in a place to podium at this competition, but we gotta watch him because he's He's got top 10 potential this year for sure. In 6th, I have Pat Vellner. Pat Vellner's won tons of competitions in his lifetime. He's podiumed at the CrossFit Games. He's won Wadapalooza. He's won Rogue. Pat is always someone to watch, but we haven't seen Pat. Pat is not competing in the CrossFit Games season this year, and I just don't know what he's going to look like. Although he did say in the behind the scenes for WFP that he's excited.
We've been doing this for a long time, and the longer you do something, the rarer it is to do things for the first time.
Yeah.
So I feel like having stuff that feels new and fresh is just really nice.
Which maybe excitement leads to success, and maybe he'll do better than this. But I can't put him higher not having seen him in months. In 7th, I have Jason Hopper. While I think Jason Hopper has so much potential, I just feel like there's something missing with Jason sometimes. Like if somebody gets too out ahead of him in a workout, it feels like he backs off a little bit sometimes. And I just struggle to put him on the podium at a lot of competitions, feeling like he isn't a little bit crazy like some of the other athletes are. And I use crazy as a term of endearment. I think it's so impressive what all of these athletes are capable of doing and the place they are able to go mentally and push themselves and believe in themselves. I find it inspirational. I just think Jason lacks a little bit of that crazy. But hey, 7th in this field is very good. This is a very tough field, and I've said that. Next, I have Ricky Garrard. I thought he was going to do a little bit better in the in-affiliate, and like many of these athletes, he did the in-affiliate. So I just don't know if he's quite peaked yet or quite ready to take down some of the men ahead of him. After that, I have Colton Mertens. It was hard putting Colton Mertens this low, but I don't feel like I have another option. The athletes that I have ahead of him are mostly athletes he hasn't went up against in an in-person competition in a long time, except for Austin Hatfield. But Austin Hatfield beat him, so it feels appropriate to have Austin Hatfield ahead of him. So I just don't know if at this competition with this level of athlete, this caliber of competition and of workouts, that Colton will be able to do much better than the bottom half of the top 10. But I think Colton always is using all this stuff as ammunition, and he continuously impresses me and surprises me, so surprise me again. I would love to be wrong. Seeing people surprise us is a good time. I don't mind being wrong, but that's where I have him. And finally, I'm rounding out my top 10 with James Sprague. It may feel odd to have the current fittest man alive in the 10th place position, but I think, and I feel bad that we all, like all people that talk about the sport, keep saying this, but 2024 was a little bit of a different games. Some of these athletes above him, like Jeff Adler, pulled out of the competition. So it's hard to put James much higher than this. And James did compete this past weekend. And some people I have ahead of James, like Roman, like Austin, like Patrick Vellner, they didn't compete. Colton, they didn't compete this past weekend. So they're fresher. So I think this is where James is going to be the bottom of the top 10. But I have a little bit of guilt about it, clearly. So a couple other guys just to keep an eye on. I have Jelle Hoste there. Jelle had announced last season that he was no longer working his full-time job to focus on being a CrossFit Games athlete. He is not competing in the CrossFit Games season because of some of the things that happened this year. So this is where he has to focus all his energy. I don't know how he's gonna do. So I put him out just outside of the top 10 or as someone to watch in the top 10. We've not seen him lately. I don't feel like I have enough data to put him into the top 10, but I have enough data from seeing him in the past and seeing him make top 10 at the games his first year back in 2023 that I'm going to say he's someone to definitely watch. After that, I have Justin Medeiros, another CrossFit Games winner. You can't count him out, but I just haven't seen anything from him lately that makes me want to put him in that top 10. BKG and Justin Medeiros, who I just mentioned, I have him as someone to watch. Both competed in the online semifinal. BKG did not do as well as I thought he was going to. He's not even that close to a qualifying position, where Medeiros, who I just mentioned, is in a pretty good one. So we'll see where BKG ends up. Definitely someone to look out for, is someone that we've watched for more than a decade, and to see what he looks like now. And finally, Travis Mayer, I believe he has been trying to prioritize the World Fitness Project a bit. So we'll see if that pays off and if maybe he can crack that top 10. That's a wrap on my World Fitness Project preview. Let me know some of your predictions for the competition below. I am cautiously optimistic about the whole thing. They have some interesting people commenting and some different shows going on. I think we're gonna learn a lot this weekend. We're gonna know a lot more about the World Fitness Project and what it's gonna look like come Sunday night. And I'm hopeful it's gonna look good and feel worthwhile. But I'm going to try to keep my expectations in check and know that things may not go off perfectly. It is their first event ever, so we have to remember that as well. I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.